All right, folks, welcome back to the TNT show. NFL Draft 2025 is over and done with. So we're just here to give you our reactions, just talk about some of the different topics within the draft that we kind of cooked up for y'all. So we're going to go ahead and hop right into it.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna save some things so we can touch on them a little bit more. Who do you think the winners and losers were of the draft? I'm gonna save the Shador stuff for maybe towards the end so we can touch on that the most.
Okay. I'm going to just give like one winner overall, personally. I'm gonna say the Giants because the Giants pretty much nailed everything that they needed to nail draft wise. They got a quarterback for the future, doesn't even have to play right now. You got another defensive end who can come in and produce right away. And I forgot what their other picks were, but I'm pretty sure they worked on like defense and offense throughout the
Yeah, they
draft.
got
But
they got a running back.
yeah, overall, A+ draft for them. Um, Losers. And obviously, again, we're not going to touch on this too much, but I think the biggest loser in the draft was, of course, Mr. Sanders. I mean, he had such high projections, a lot of hype going into the draft, and then he just had a free fall.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that a little bit more because I definitely have some stuff that I want to say. Um, yeah, I agree. I think the Giants did what they were supposed to do. I think a lot of teams did what they were supposed to do. Losers, I don't really know because it's hard to say who didn't draft well. I know the Cowboys. People were saying the Cowboys didn't do anything, that they did typical Cowboy moves. Honestly, it might be Pittsburgh. They did they yes, they got Will Howard, but they did not. They had potentially they could have gotten anybody, but they chose Will Howard in the seventh round or whatever round it was.
Which, like I said, offset again, it could be
Yeah, I
value. I
mean,
mean, he
yeah, I mean,
could.
if you strike a gold mine with him, Quinn Ewers, whoever, look at Brock Purdy. He's a great example. Mr. Irrelevant, fixing to probably make $40 million a year.
Yeah, but
So
they did catch a lot of heat for not. Well, I'm not gonna, you know, kick a dead dog, but they caught a lot of heat for not taking Shador and taking a defensive
yeah,
tackle.
but he's not guaranteed to make the roster at Cleveland. They could sign in free agency when Cleveland cuts him.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, honestly though, for Cleveland, that's either way for them. That's a win-win for them. So I feel like
yeah,
that's
you
fine.
didn't lose anything. Fifth round pick. I mean, he ain't even guaranteed to make the team. But who do you think the steal of the draft was?
Mm. I'm probably going to say, um, I'd probably say one of the quarterbacks that got taken in like the later rounds. I'm probably gonna say like,
I'm gonna have a
mm,
biased answer, and then I'm gonna give you like my real deal answer.
I honestly almost gave you my bias answer first and just said Jalen Milroe, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
My
Uh,
biased answer is gonna be Mason Taylor to the Jets. I think he actually might do really well there.
I can
Um,
see that. Yeah.
but my real sleeper, I think it's gonna be Quinshon Judkins to the Browns. I think he's gonna have a really good season.
Oh yeah, he'll be big time over there. I mean, you come into a team with a solid offensive line.
I think Cleveland had a pretty good draft for real. They got two running backs that were really good in college. They got Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. So that's a very good running back duo.
It is. I mean, that's about as good as it gets right there, to be completely honest.
I mean, two home run hitters. They both led the SEC in rushing. I mean, Quinshon scored 18 times last year, so I think 13, 18, something like that. But yeah, So this QB class was a little bit weird. There really wasn't, aside from, you could maybe argue Cam Ward, I guess. Aside from him, the rest of them kind of sucked. Just to be flat out honest with you, I guess.
I wouldn't say they suck as far as college standards
No
go, but
Heisman Trophy winner.
yeah,
No real elite level talent.
true. That is true.
And I mean, they all kind of went, aside from Cam Ward, they were, I don't know. We can just go ahead and touch on it. So the Shedeur Sanders part was, I don't know what happened. I have theories on what happened. I mean, I think it was a lot of different things, whether it's running his mouth. Apparently he was in meetings, taking personal phone calls, acting a fool. I wasn't there. I don't know. These are all speculations. But in my opinion, and I told you this from the jump, I've said it on here 100 times. I just don't think he was that good. But I think he should have went to the combine. I get it. You think you were good enough. In my opinion, I didn't think you were. I think you should have went to the combine and shown everybody that you were a true top 5 pick. Screw the hype. You didn't have the hype that you thought you had. That's just my opinion. I didn't think he was that good. You got your jersey retired in college for winning a couple games.
Yeah,
And
it's just it was a lot surrounding the situation on top of his.
now I'm going to give him where credit's due. He put Colorado, they were trash. I mean, terrible, god awful. And they were almost a playoff team. Yes, they didn't beat a ranked team. And I think that's where you can kind of, it's the full body of work.
I think
What are
that's
you
another
really
thing.
getting?
Another
Like
thing
my
is if
dad said, from he never really had to struggle. Your dad was your coach for your entire life. So
yeah,
what do you look like outside of that? How do
that's
you deal
true.
with adversity outside of, Daddy, I need you to retire my jersey. Daddy, I need this. It don't work like that in the NFL. A lot of people may not want that. I don't know. Was it disrespectful for him to not get drafted in the first round? Personally, I don't think so. I didn't think he was that good. But for him to fall to the fifth round, I think they were trying to prove a point.
Honestly,
People can call it what they want to call it.
in my opinion, he was supposed to go to the Steelers at 21. That's just me being real. But again, like I said, we can't
Is
say
he better than Tyler Shook? Probably. I don't know.
so.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Tyler Shook is going to be 26 years old when they go to play. He's been in college for 7 years. And you're telling me you
Yeah,
want him over Shedeur? Okay.
I think there's a lot of things that would have contributed him getting a higher draft slot. Like if they would have made the playoffs, and let's say they would have had a couple upsets, and he was playing out of his mind. He goes to the combine, he wows everybody, and he backs up all the talk that he's talking.
Yeah, he
I
should have went
mean,
to the combine and backed it up.
I think if you do all that, you definitely solidify where you stand. Maybe you still weren't top 5, but at least I think his floor was supposed to be 21. He was supposed to go because the Steelers just I don't feel like they needed the defensive tackle. They have a defense that's already like top 10 in the league year in
Yeah.
and year out.
They were like, Cam Hayward is fixing to retire. Okay. So you want to go with no disrespect to
Yeah, again, no disrespect.
Mason Graham. No disrespect. That's not what I want to do because, I mean, great player. But you need a quarterback. And my thing is, they passed on Shedeur so many till the fifth round. So something was there. Whether it was they don't want to deal with Dion, they don't want to deal with his arrogance or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it happened. Now you have to go to Cleveland and battle out four other quarterbacks to even make the roster. You got to battle Deshaun, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel
I
for
mean,
you to even make
again,
the team.
if you think about it, if he gets cut, he can go wherever he wants to go for another
So
opportunity. So, I mean, it's
apparently Cleveland didn't want him. Their owner took him. Apparently nobody wanted him. The coach didn't want him. Nobody wanted him.
interesting.
Allegedly. I want to touch on one thing. Obviously, people know he got prank called. How do you feel about that? Because apparently they're coming for this kid.
I think given the
Apparently, like he's been getting like threats of they're gonna catch him outside, and
I
they're
don't
gonna
think
jump in and
it's not that serious. It should never
uh,
be that serious. But on his end, you probably definitely shouldn't have done it. It was just a bad mistake. Young
it's a
kid,
mistake.
kids, kids
Kid
do stuff
being
like that.
yeah, he a young kid. His dad's the defensive coordinator. He probably saw Shador fall, and he was like, you know what? You know what would be funny, guys? Let's call him. My dad's the coach. I can get the number. So he probably found his number. He called him. Being dumb. It is
Yeah.
what it is. You got to live and learn. Now, the thing I don't like, and I don't mean this in any disrespect either. What are you apologizing for? I don't know if I mean that or how I don't know how people are going to take what I just said, but what are you apologizing for?
It's a
What are you
publicity thing.
what are you sorry for?
He's got to be.
But he didn't.
Between
I mean, yeah, he prank called him, but I mean, what are you apologizing for? Yeah, it was all over the news. I mean, not all over the news. It was all over social media. I guess you'd call it news. All over social media, all over ESPN. I
well,
mean,
that's the issue nowadays. Everything gets blown up from social media, and then ESPN now, really, honestly, it's been like this forever. But ESPN likes to run with stuff. They're gonna throw it out there because it's a big thing in the media, and they want the rating for it. People
yeah,
gonna tune into it.
I feel bad for he probably. I mean, he probably didn't mean for it. I mean, well, I mean, he meant to do it. But, like you said, it's kids being kids. People are blowing this out of proportion. You're telling me you didn't do something stupid when you were a kid. You didn't prank call people or, do something stupid. He made a mistake. He did something dumb. He probably didn't apologize. The Atlanta Falcons, like you said, PR team was like, look, man, we got to get ahead
PR
of this
team
now.
they put together a nice
Look,
paragraph.
man, I don't care what you say, but this is what you're going to say. You're going to post this on all your social media platforms. Read this off word for word. Um, but again, I don't want to say maybe Shador needed it, but maybe he did. Maybe this is the wake up call he needed. You can't
I
just get
mean,
everything handed to you in life. You got struck with adversity. You were a top 5 pick and you fell to the 5th round. You don't see that a whole lot for nothing, for nothing. Sometimes you might see, oh, so and so. We've said it before. When Larry Tunsil came out, that picture of him dropped him smoking a bomb with a gas mask. You see, people come out doing something stupid when they were 17 years old, doing something dumb. It happens.
well,
Isaiah Bond didn't get drafted because of the stuff he has going on.
that is true.
So it happens.
Well,
Somebody will
I
end up
mean,
taking him once all these allegations and everything are wrapped up.
Shador, he gets the opportunity to now to prove that he's more than just
That
his.
everybody made a mistake. You got to go out here and you got to beat out four other quarterbacks. If you can't do it, there's 31 other teams you can give it a chance.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not even that for me. It's just proving that he's more than what his last name is. Because now all
Yeah,
the speculation is, he got humbled and this, that, and the third, and the last name can't do everything for you and all this other stuff. When in reality, I don't even think he's thinking about it like that. He probably just wants to go to the league and play. Everybody knows he doesn't need or want for money because he comes from,
yeah. What's he need money
fame
for?
and
His
fame and
dad's
money already.
Dion.
Yeah, so he's good on that. At this point, he wants to play in the league because he wants to play in the league, not because of his name, not because of, you know, what his name means. So he gets to go out and create his own legacy now and prove that everybody, again, like you said, made a mistake passing on him 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, it's the grain of salt kind of thing. Like, did people make a mistake? Who knows? Obviously they didn't want him at all, or they would have drafted him.
Yeah. So
But
now he gets to.
from what I've seen, Pittsburgh's fixing to make a trade for Kirk Cousins. I've seen it. I've seen people talking about it.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. You couldn't get Aaron Rodgers. They're in a win now kind of scenario. They have all the pieces. I don't know. But let's see. One thing I want to see, and this will kind of be a two kind of things. There's a couple people that have make or break, and I think Trevor Lawrence is one of them. He kind of has gotten a pass. He's been on a carousel of coaches, coordinators, the whole 9 yards. But when is enough enough? Like, I mean, I'm not a professional athlete. You know he's pretty good. But at what point do we have to start pointing the finger at the players?
Okay, so I'm gonna agree to disagree. I agree. It's definitely like he's kind of getting on that last leg. But you got to think he just got another new coach this year.
Exactly. That's my point. It's like, you keep firing your coach, but I mean, good Lord,
But
when do you
I mean,
start pointing the finger?
they're also still in the process of properly building around
I mean, he's been there
him.
for going on. This will be what, year 5, year 6?
Yeah,
So,
but if you look at the roster though, the only thing that they did right, and you can tell based on his numbers, was bringing in Calvin Ridley, and then they let him walk.
yeah, well,
So again, they hit last year with Brian Thomas, fantastic pick. You get Travis Hunter, which obviously in the eyes of many people, maybe you shouldn't have not have done that. So we'll see how that fares for them as far as what his production is going to look like going into his NFL career.
yeah, I see a lot of people that strongly disagree with that pick, and I can see why. You have a young coaching staff, all brand new coordinators. Maybe you don't really know what to do with him. Do you let him play both ways? Do you let him play defense, sprinkle him in on offense? Do you let him play offense, sprinkle him in on defense? What are you doing?
Exactly.
It's a boom or bust for that kind of situation. Because if he, hypothetically speaking, if he comes in, he did and it ain't panning out, you're gonna look like an idiot. And you traded a lot to get him. You gave up a decent amount to grab him where you did. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Could they have went different directions? Yes. I understand why they did it though. And I think the reason why is you need to make a decision on Trevor Lawrence. Is he the guy or is he not? Because when he came into the league, he had the hype that not everybody gets. He was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he was
This
supposed to be a
man, this
generational
man
talent.
lost two college games his whole career.
It's
Yeah,
different when you get to the league.
and
It's a
it's
lot
different.
different when you get to the league.
He went well. Like I said at the beginning, grain of salt, because he came in. They brought in Urban Meyer, and he ruined Trevor Lawrence. It was bad. It was terrible. He brought in Doug. No, yeah. I don't. Yeah, did they bring him in with Urban Meyer? Was that Trevor Lawrence's first year? I think so. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think
And
he was with
then he brought
Urban for
in
like a
Doug
year.
Peterson.
That was
They weren't
50-50.
much. They weren't much better with Doug Peterson. He got hurt this year. It wasn't his fault. He got headhunted, and
Well,
then you insert 2025. So this will be year 5 for him.
now you got now
Now
you
you
got
now the are you do you hit the panic button if you're Jacksonville after this year? But that part's tough because you just gave this man 300 like $280 million, right? 270
I
last year.
think
He got one of them big deals like Joe Burton.
so he's not going to be under he's going to be under some scrutiny as the quarterback, but again, new coach, so the coach is probably going to get like a 2-year mark. How well are you doing in year 2? If you're not doing that great, we're going to look for somebody else, and we're going to protect our quarterback who we gave all this money to, so we can't say like, oh, it's his fault.
It's his
That's
fault.
how
You
it's going
just
to
blame it
go.
on the coach.
That's how it's going to go, and that's normally or how it tends to go for the most part. You got to cover up
Yeah,
the fact that you missed on your pick. I mean, it is what it is.
I think another one that is on the chopping block or potentially Kyler Murray. He's another one. The health concerns, his lack of performance, if you want to call it that, the whole full body of work. He again hasn't really panned out the way that the Cardinals wanted to.
His numbers look good. They just don't translate to wins.
Yeah, and you can some of it you can put on him, some of it you can put on the coaching staff, but he does get hurt a lot too.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's the biggest thing. Like him getting injured, and now it's to the point where they're actually building a solid team around him. You have a really good tight end. You
Yeah,
have one of the best young receivers in the league. Might the numbers might not show it, but give it some time.
yeah.
Uh
They gotta be healthy and together for the connection to. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he is on the chopping block, and I think there's some other people that are. We got to start thinking about some things here.
yeah, I mean
Big
there's
picture.
players, coaches like Brian Dable over there at the Giants. I know his seats getting to the hotter side. I mean, they have a pretty, I'd say, fairly decent.
I think Jackson Dart bought him 2 years.
Not really, because he
This
still
year
has
and
to
next
go
year.
out. He still has to go out with. He has two halfway decent quarterbacks. Obviously, you have a solidified starter with Russell Wilson. Your offense is good enough to where y'all should be at least a fringe playoff team. And if you can't win at least 10 games with Russell Wilson after he just came out of the Steelers with what 10, 11 wins, then I think they're gonna get rid of him.
Yeah, I agree. You got like you again with the Giants. You got a great young receiver in Malik Neighbors. That's about it. But I mean, you brought in um a decent running back. I think they had pretty decent running backs. They just suck. Their whole team as a whole, their offense is just terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you say Daniel Jones is our guy and then you cut him halfway through the season.
Yeah, and you let the leading rusher in the NFL go to one of the best teams in the NFL. But that's not Brian Daboll's fault. That's the GM's fault. Um, so who aside from those, who could you see like it's make or break? Who do you think needs
Uh,
to take that next step?
Definitely Bryce Young. Rookie season he was
Trash. Yeah.
pretty
But
bad.
again though, the coach. He's never had. It's hard to, you know, it's the roller coaster, carousel or however you want to call it. They have a different coach, coordinators every year. It's hard to adjust when it's you don't know who's in your front office. You're firing somebody, and 2 weeks later they bring somebody else in. Then they want to redo everything. You
Ex-
seen you seen last year, second half of the season, of what it could look like. If he can come out and do that, he'll be fine.
oh yeah,
You
oh
brought
yeah.
in, you brought in, they brought in Hunter Renfro, signed him yesterday. That's a good pickup for them.
Hopefully he can
They,
stay healthy.
so if he can stay healthy, he'll be solid. He's exactly what Adam Thielen is, just a younger version. So you brought in McMillan. You have Leggett. I think Carolina might be all right. I don't think they're going to make it be a playoff team, but I think they should win more than however many games, two or three. If not, you got to move on from Bryce Young. It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. Unfortunately, like you said, you got to eat either you got to eat the pick or you got to move on from it. Well, what's it going to be? Do you just keep firing coaches because you took Bryce Young number one, or what?
Good point.
What's it going to be? Eventually you've got to make a decision on, you know, is this guy who we want? And if it is, that's fine. But I mean, at what point do you say, okay, enough's enough? Now, I think there are some big name guys I think that need to elevate and take that next step. Dak Prescott being one of them.
I don't think he need to
And,
take the next step. He just need to get to a conference championship or a Super Bowl.
and that's what I mean. If at what point do you got to move on from him?
Oh yeah, I sing this all the time when we talk about the Cowboys. They should have went on from him after he, you know, had that poor performance against that young Packers team. What last year?
Yeah, when they got humiliated by Green Bay 2 years ago. Yeah,
I mean, throwing pick after pick, and you're a seasoned veteran
yeah.
struggling.
See, for him, it's different. You've been in the league for what, 10 years,
Exactly. That should not
almost.
be
So
happening.
yeah, he's probably been in the well. Yeah, he's probably been in the league. Yeah, probably. Another name that you're not fixing to like what I'm fixing to say. Justin Herbert's another. I
Nah,
think I
nah,
really
no,
think that
no.
his playoff performance has been terrible. He's
Yeah, but
been blown out twice.
he gets a pass because he's young and his team is still building. It's different for Dak Prescott because he's been there that many times, and a lot of times, more often than not, it's his fault. Even with him having a loaded team and he's much older, has much more playoff experience. That's why I say he doesn't get a pass. That's the only reason Justin Herbert gets a pass for me.
I think there's some other people that you could somewhat make. I don't think you move on from them, but you may want to consider bringing in another quarterback just for future purposes here. And you're not fixing to like what I'm fixing to say.
You're about to say Lamar Jackson, but that's insane because he's not old
No,
enough
I'm
to
not.
where you.
No, I'm
Okay,
not. I'm
all
not going
right,
to say Lamar.
all right, all right, all
Lamar
right.
has. Lamar has. Some of it's his fault. Some of it's not. if they would just, they're missing something. Dak
They're
has no
not.
excuse. You
They're
have one of
not.
the best receivers in the league.
Personally,
Lamar's throwing the ball to Rashad Bateman.
well, their receiver did get hurt.
Zay
Zay
Flowers
Flowers.
is not, yeah, but I'm saying like they don't have a true number one receiver. No disrespect to Zay Flowers.
We'll see. They're not going out and they're at the point that where you can't really just go out and
You,
sign anybody based on how your team is built, and you have to draft somebody who can grow into what you want them to be, which is a number one receiver.
I think I know they're not going to do it. They just gave him a bunch of money, but there's a few people that kind of need to. It's make or break. I don't think it's going to be make or break. Let me not say that, but
So
you
who's
know,
the next name? Who's the next name?
Josh Allen's the name up there. Eventually,
Oh, come on, man.
this man won a pity MVP because they had to give it to him
Okay, take all that off the
to
table, and you
keep
got to
him relevant.
understand. You have to understand that, and I'm gonna make a case for him and Lamar Jackson because just like the quarterbacks way back when who didn't win Super Bowls but had the numbers, they had to go up against who?
I don't matter.
Tom Brady. Yes, it do. It does. When you're coming out of one side of the
But see,
conference,
now they're getting all this money, and
that
you
that
can't
doesn't
afford and
matter
you and
though.
you can't afford why Tom Brady wins 7 rings because he took less money and built a juggernaut teams around him. They had
He
the
could,
best defenses, but Josh Allen and all of them are signing these $300 million contracts, and you can't afford to bring in top level wide receivers because you have the cap in your pocket.
but they still have good teams though. Regardless of what their contract looks like, their team is still the Ravens. You can't tell me the Ravens don't have a Super Bowl contending team.
And
You can't tell me the Buffalo Bills do not have a Super Bowl contending team.
as much as this name is fixing to hurt my soul, Joe Burrow is another one.
I get why you're
As
saying that
as
though.
much as it hurts me to say that,
It's still too early for him though.
it's the health concern. Tua is another one. Tua is a perfect example of somebody that you really don't know what the longevity on Tua is.
Yeah, I mean
What
that's
does his health look like?
out of all the quarterbacks you said, that's probably the only one you got
I
right.
just want to see
Everybody
Josh
else,
Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow take that next step. You just signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase for the Bengals. It's time.
I don't know, man. Between me and you, Joe Burrow kind of he's already hit the peak
In
because he
my
went to the
opinion,
Super Bowl.
I think the Bengals have the best chance.
No, they don't.
They've been there. They're not going to choke when it matters the most. If they
Well,
would have had a solid defense, they were the Chiefs not throwing the game away against the Broncos from being in the playoffs. I
well,
think if they would have made the playoffs, I'm not saying that they would have won the Super Bowl because their defense sucked, but
here's the
I
thing.
think that
Here's the
they
thing.
would have been they were one of those scary teams that you just didn't want to see.
Their defense will still not be good enough next season because
I don't know. It might be. They brought in
they
some
won't
pretty.
have enough of the talent. They won't have enough of the talent. That's going to be the problem. Though, if you look at the Ravens defense and you look at the Bills defense, they have talent everywhere
I don't know.
and they're
The
really good.
Bills let go of a lot of people.
But they kept a lot of their young guys though. Like they got a lot of guys under contract. But again, my point being is I'm going back. I'm gonna take it back. Is that it's hard to beat greatness, which is Patrick Mahomes. At this point, his career is playing out similar to Tom Brady's because he's getting there. He knows how to get there. He knows what it takes to get there. That's why he does it so much.
I think this is a this year is your perfect chance. They're coming off of a heartbreaking loss. They really don't have anybody. You know,
Honestly, I would not be surprised if the Chiefs went back to the Super Bowl again next year. Which
I don't see it. I see I've seen a lot of people say that they're going to go on a little hiatus.
uh, We'll see.
But then again, like you said, he's the most seasoned veteran out of them all. When the playoffs get there, it's a different kind of team.
He's
So
hands down the best quarterback in the league, and there's just no doubt about it.
yeah, there's no doubt, there's no discussion. It's not even close. I
And then
don't
you
really
got
know who you put at number two.
Lamar. That's easy.
I
Come on
wouldn't
now.
even put. I wouldn't even. I don't even know if I would put Lamar. What's he doing?
Lamar is a solid number two. I mean, just in terms of what he does and what he brings to the field and all the numbers that he puts up, he's a solid number two. We're not talking about just like Super Bowl and playoffs and all this other stuff. We're talking about
Well, I
the
mean,
the talent level.
if you're looking at talent, I mean, Dak. As much as we joke on him,
No, Dak's really good. Don't get me wrong. He's a choke artist.
well, you could say the same thing about Lamar. He's choked every time he's gotten to the playoffs. Choked versus the Bills.
Yeah, no, don't. I'm not saying he doesn't do that, because he
If you
definitely
wanted
chokes.
me to be honest, the second best. You're gonna say I'm biased here.
He-
I put Joe Burrow ahead of all of them.
I'm
I
not.
think he's better. At least he's been to a Super Bowl.
He has. We're not talking about that though. We're talking about what he brings to the table. I put Lamar at number two because okay, so he can hurt you with his arm because he can throw for 4,000 plus. He can hurt you with his legs because he can run
So
for
you're
a
saying
thousand
he's
plus.
more dynamic.
That's why I put him number two because he's the most dynamic. Patrick Mahomes is like by far the most. Uh, he's not as
Yeah, he's
dynamic
at the
as
top.
Lamar, but he's
He's
the dog.
he's got that. Yeah, he's just got that. If you're gonna beat me, you're gonna have to beat
Joe Burrow's a solid
me.
three
He's
for me
got
though.
that Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. You can't give him the ball. If you give him the ball, you're screwed.
Joe Burrow's a solid three
Joe
for me. I'll give you
Burrow.
that.
The problem with him is you haven't seen the full body of work.
No,
When healthy, they went to the Super Bowl, but
you've
he's
seen the full
hurt,
body of
so
work.
you really can't. But
You've
he's
seen the full
hurt
body of work.
but he's been hurt twice. So he's
Yeah, but
missed majority of his NFL career. Lamar really hadn't done that.
yeah, but you kind of cutting
Joe
Joe Burrow
Burrow has
short.
had two season ending injuries. Lamar hasn't had that at all.
Yes, you're right. But in those two healthy seasons, he's done technically
Joe
well,
Burrow
well,
should have won the MVP this year. He had the
yeah.
best numbers. Their team just sucked. And I hate that for him.
So
In
he's
my
been to a Super
eyes,
Bowl.
in my eyes, he was the MVP this year. I'm not trying to be biased. I'm just speaking facts. They've been to a Super Bowl. It's I don't know. I don't want to blame it on the organization, but their defense just sucks. But again, that takes me back to the money thing. You just put almost $500 million in three players. So
Well,
your team ain't going to get any better because you just loaded up. You're hoping and praying that Joe Burrow, Chase, and T. Higgins can win you a Super Bowl in the next 2 years.
well, that's why they brought the defensive coordinator back because that's gonna make a difference too. If you have at least a halfway decent, talented group,
Oh, facts,
then
yeah.
your coordinator can make the big difference in what your scheme is going to look like and how that's going to help
Yeah,
out your
calling the
players.
right plays and, making sure that you're in the right formations and everything. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I mean, you could make an argument for Jalen Hurts. Yeah, his numbers aren't great. And yeah, you could say his team's loaded, but at the
Well,
end of
hold
the
on.
day, at the end of the day, I mean, he's better than, if you wanted me to be honest with you, I think I might rather have him than Josh Allen.
Let me just because we're not going to say his numbers aren't great. His
He
numbers.
benefits from being on a good team. The
No,
Philadelphia
wait, wait,
Eagles
wait,
are
wait, wait. Don't do that because I've
their
already
defense is
no. You're taking away
good
from him right
enough.
now.
I'm not taking away from him, but what I'm saying is he doesn't have to go out there and play hero ball. like Josh Allen and Lamar did. Lamar's
Yeah, but
problem is he tries to be the hero. He
he
tries to
can.
make the play when just punt the ball and play defense. Your defense is good enough. The
If
Chiefs,
you,
I mean, the Eagles just beat the Chiefs. They could have beat them 70-14 if they wanted to.
yeah, I mean, look, like I said, if you go and look at Jalen Hurts' numbers through his years, though, in his first full season as a starter, he put up like what about 4,000 yards, had a lot of yards on the ground, and they went to the Super Bowl. So we know like he can do that year in and year out. But when you bring in Saquon Barkley, who runs for
You don't have
2,000
to.
yards, you don't have to throw for
You don't have to do it. You don't have to throw for
4,000 yards.
300 yards a game. You just stand back there and throw for, 150, 200 yards. Saquon done ran for 200. And you play defense. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, we kind of veered off track there for a second, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Yep. NFL draft is in the books. What we got? OTAs and stuff coming up.
Yeah,
So
next week we're gonna start on the off-season breakdown.
and the offseason breakdown should carry us through.
That should carry us for a little bit, at least into. So we're fixing to go into May, so we'll start it in May. That should carry us almost into June. It should, depending on how much we break it up.
Cool. Other than that, I know we've been talking about trying to get y'all some basketball content, but with us having to, shift our like recording schedule and stuff, we'll.
Yeah, we're trying to keep everything as close to current as possible. There's a lot of things that we don't touch on because nobody wants to sit here and listen to something that happened 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
And if you do want us to talk about it, leave us a comment. Make sure that you tell us that, hey, you do want us to talk about it. Because, some things we do want to talk about, but we think it's too late. So if there are things that you want us to talk about, there's a lot that's happened that we haven't talked about. So, but yeah, the off-season breakdown is coming. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, that's basically all I got.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for us here on this episode.
Lakers in 5.
They're down 3-1, but we're not gonna get into that. That's gonna do it for us here. Bring Tyler some.
Oh, by the way, I guess I'm not gonna have to buy a Shedeur Sanders jersey.
Oh yeah, we just. I wasn't even gonna bring that up. I was hoping you were gonna forget about it, but it is what it is. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode.